Take every person who claps for you out of the room and see what's actually left standing. For most men, nothing. Just an empty shell that was only ever held up by other people's eyes. The handful who don't collapse are the only men history ever bothered to remember. You think strength is loud. You think it wears a crowd like armor. It doesn't. Real strength is quiet. It's built in empty rooms, on cold floors, at 3 in the morning when nobody's watching and nobody ever will. Miyamoto Musashi fought as many as 60 duels between the ages of 13 and 29, never lost one. Then he did something almost nobody talks about. He walked away. At 60 years old, he climbed a mountain called Iwato and secluded himself in what's known today as the Gondo Cave to write down everything he'd learned before he died. No students around him, no applause, just a brush, a stone floor, and a man who finally understood that mastery isn't proven in front of people. It's built when there's nobody left to perform for. That's the part they cut out of the legend. Everyone wants the 60 duels. Nobody wants the cave. Here's the truth society buried under noise. Solitude isn't punishment. It's the forge. You don't get hard by being comfortable. You get hard by being left alone with yourself long enough that you either break or you don't. Most men break. They fill the silence with anything they can find. Phones, friends, noise, validation from people who don't even like them. The second the room goes quiet, they panic because the room is a mirror and they don't like what's standing in it. Musashi didn't fear the mirror. He stared into it for 60 years. Think about Chuck Noland in Castaway, stranded alone on an island, no rescue coming, no crowd to perform for. He doesn't stay the soft executive he was before the crash. He builds fire with his bare hands, hunts his own food, talks to a volleyball just to keep his mind from caving in, and comes out the other side a different animal entirely. Not because anyone clapped for him, because there was nobody left to do it for. The island didn't care how he used to be. It only cared what he could become. Here's a story, not a real one, but it could be. A boy, 16, trains alone in his garage every night after his friends go home to play video games. No coach watching, no crowd cheering, just a heavy bag, a busted lip from the week before, and silence. Years pass. Nobody sees the work. Nobody claps. Then one night, in a fight that actually matters, he's the only one in the room who isn't shaking. His friends folded under pressure they never trained for. He didn't, because pressure was the only company he ever kept. That's what solitude does. It doesn't make you liked. It makes you load-bearing. Watch what happens when a man tries to better himself in front of an audience. The second he stumbles, the room remembers it. They bring it up at dinner. They bring it up years later laughing, like his failure belongs to them now too. So he stops taking real risks. He plays it safe in front of the crowd because the crowd punishes mistakes harder than it rewards effort. Alone, none of that exists. You can fail 40 times in a garage and nobody writes it down. Nobody uses it against you later. The cave doesn't gossip. This is why most men never actually change. They need permission. They need a group chat to agree the new version of them is acceptable before they commit to it. Musashi never asked 60 different dojos for permission to leave them behind. He just left. He trusted the verdict he reached alone over the noise of men who had every reason to keep him small. There's a kind of man who can only feel strong standing next to someone weaker. He needs the comparison. He needs a room full of people falling apart, so his own mediocrity looks like discipline. That man cannot survive solitude because in an empty room, there's nobody left to look down on. Just him, just the work, just the truth of where he actually stands, with no crowd to soften the number. Beethoven went deaf and kept composing anyway, locked inside a silence he never asked for, and wrote symphonies that outlived every man who could still hear. He didn't need an audience to know the music was right. He felt it in his bones before a single note hit the air. Musashi wrote it plain in his own hand. Today is victory over yourself of yesterday, not victory over a crowd, not victory measured by who's watching, victory over the version of you that existed 24 hours ago. That's the only scoreboard that's ever been real. You've been trained to think being alone means you're losing. Lonely on a Friday night must be something wrong with you. That's not wisdom. That's a leash, dressed up as concern. And you've been wearing it so long you forgot it was put on you. Marcus Aurelius understood something most men never figure out. He spent his nights writing to nobody but himself, working through his own mind in the dark because he knew the only opinion that actually governs a man is the one he holds about himself when the room is empty. Not the applause, not the crowd at the gates of Rome, the verdict he reached alone at night with no one grading the answer. Epictetus said it colder. A man isn't broken by his real problems. He's broken by the fear he invents about them in his own head. And you only meet that fear face to face in solitude. You can't outrun it with friends around. They'll talk you out of looking at it. Alone, there's nowhere left to hide. You either deal with the thing living in your skull, or it eats you slow. Look at Vagabond, the story built on Musashi's own bones. A boy who started as a wild animal, feared by everyone, loved by no one, forced into isolation because the world had no place for him. That isolation didn't break him. It carved him into the deadliest sword in Japan. The crowd came later. The respect came later. The solitude came first, and without it, none of the rest would have existed. Here's the part that's going to sting. You keep waiting for someone to validate the work you haven't started yet. You keep needing a crowd before you'll commit to the grind. That's backwards. The crowd shows up after the cave, not before it. Nobody claps for the man still sharpening his blade in the dark. They clap for the man who walks out already finished. So stop running from the silence. Stop treating an empty room like a death sentence. The empty room is where men like Musashi were built. The empty room is where Beethoven heard music nobody else could. The empty room is where you stop being soft. You don't need a crowd to prove you're real. You need a mirror you're not afraid to face at 3 a.m, alone, with nothing but the truth and your own 2 hands. Turn off the phone tonight. Sit in the quiet until it stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like training. That shift won't happen the first night. It might not happen the 10th, but somewhere past the discomfort, past the urge to fill the silence with anything that isn't yourself, something in you stops flinching. That's the moment the cave starts doing its work. Not when it's comfortable, when it stops being a threat. That's the cave. That's the forge. Walk into it. If you're done with the noise the algorithm feeds everyone else, the real material lives on Patreon. The parts they trim out, the parts that don't get approved for the mainstream feed, that's where the actual work is. Hit subscribe if this hits something in you. Hit like if you're done pretending you didn't need to hear it. And if you want the content they don't want in your hands, the link's below. The cave is open. Not everyone gets in. I'll see you soon.